day to remember for Donegal footballers and their thousands of fans at St. Tierna's Park in Clonus yesterday as they bridged a 9-year gap to win back the Ulster football title after an exciting final against Cavan. And for centre half-back Mick Lafferty, the climax of a tense and absorbing championship as he leads his team to the coveted cup and a place in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway on the 14th of August. And hello again to you and welcome to the programme. Well, this evening we take another look at how Donegal captured that Ulster title in tremendous style in Clonus yesterday. And we'll see how the Derry Miners won the Ulster Minor Championship and indeed lived up to their rating as one of the very best minor teams in the country. In studio today we welcome Jack Mahan of Galway, author of a new book on the GAA Action Replay. And Jack, you're very welcome indeed. Well, we'll talk later on, Jack, about your new book, but I do know that you were at the Ulster final and I think you enjoyed it.
I did indeed, Jim. I thought the atmosphere of the game was great. In fact, I haven't seen a better atmosphere at any venue outside Croke Park and Killarney and Park Keeve. Looking up at the hill, that embankment, I thought that the GAA is lucky to have such an atmosphere. I think it was after one of the Donegal scores and the sea of flags, I'd say the Cop couldn't be anything better than that.
Yeah, indeed, that embankment in Clonus is one of my own very favourite places. I remember watching an Ulster final there a number of years ago. It can't really, I suppose, Jack, in bad weather or anything like that, be the most comfortable places, but on a day like yesterday, it really was the place to watch an Ulster final, wasn't it?
I suppose, well, yesterday there wasn't room for sitting down, but there's no danger at all about it. I was talking to the president of the GAA afterwards, and I told him, I asked him, was he proud of the occasion? He says he was.
Looking up in that embankment there a moment ago, I noticed predominantly, I think, the Donegal flags. I think there was a great wave of feeling towards Donegal this year, having won the Under-21 last year.
Oh, there was. I hadn't seen this present Donegal team play, and I had heard a lot about them from the Under-21 last year. But they have, they're a new power in Ulster football, and this was the best Donegal team I've seen. I saw their two previous Ulster champion teams, but there's even a cockiness about this team that they didn't have before. A wee bit too cocky maybe at times, but they certainly, I was very impressed with the younger players like McMullen and McHugh and McDermott and the midfielder Malloy. Those were great lads.
Playing with confidence. Well, looking back, Jack, now at Castlebar, the Connacht final the previous week, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, I suppose this knocks still further the idea of an open draw. The Connacht final, the Ulster final and the Munster final, and the Leinster to come next Sunday, which promises to be a great game.
It does indeed. I'm against the open draw anyhow, Jim, but this year has knocked it. I'd say it has put it back. You won't have many emotions about the open draw in the future.
And the crowd seem to be coming back to these provincial finals now.
Well, the GAA is very lucky at the moment in the games it's getting, so it is, but the crowds are coming back and the fare is improving. I mean, the Connacht final this year was the best Connacht final we've had since the 60s, I would say. You had Mayo made up in a big way for their lapse last year. And
did it in the final, of course, where it counts, yeah.
And they gave pride back to their supporters. I mean, the cheers that greeted Kevin McStay's 2 points, I haven't heard Mayo cheers like that for years and years and years.
Well, lest it be, it felt a moment ago that Donegal had all the support. Cavan, of course, had a tremendous support yesterday. Was there a feeling that that might have been a chance for Cavan to come back into the big time?
Oh, Cavan had a great support. In fact, the fact that you had 2 new teams, I'm sure Cavan wouldn't like to be described as new with their great tradition, but 2 new teams in an Ulster final, it brought a big crowd. I saw today where the attendance is estimated at 25,000. Cavan, I wouldn't say that Donegal dominated the hill. The blue and white was to be seen as well. Indeed it was.
And so now to the action at Clonus. Donegal then in that relatively new green and gold strip, Cavan, as we say, in the famous blue and white. John Goff of Antrim, the referee, and Mick Dunn, the commentator. So let's pick it up at the throw-in.
We're seconds away now from the start. Paul McGettigan and Danny Finnegan here. Adge King with the moustache, and it's Adge King who knocks it down for Cavan, getting it to his midfield partner, Danny Finnegan, into the full forward, Derek MacDonald. Nice pass out to Donald O'Donoghue, and Donald O'Donoghue in the first couple of seconds. Donald O'Donoghue there in 10 seconds, and that was a breakaway from the throw-in. So what a boost that must be to Cavan. Now the captain for Donegal, Mickey Lafferty, inside to Paul McGettigan. Paul now from about 35 metres out, he just put it wide. Just gone wide by the midfielder Paul McGettigan, who played football with Galway as well as Donegal now back in that green and gold jersey. Damien O'Reilly's kick out knocked down by Danny Finnegan, but it comes to Pádraig Carr. Martin McHugh, it is the number 13 rather. Martin McHugh, the man who was switched in. Martin McHugh listed as 13 but switched to the 40 in the rearrangement before they lined out. Ray Cullivan, the number 12 for Cavan, got his foot to that. This is Donald Donoghue, the man who got their opening score. Donald Donoghue now trying to get it into Derek MacDonald. This is Paddy McNamee, nicely chipped into Derek MacDonald. What a goal! Oh yes! It was Donald Donoghue's through ball. It went to Paddy McNamee. It was a nice flick by McNamee into Derek MacDonald, and MacDonald gets it into the net. This is midfielder Anthony Malloy, yet another of the under-21s who won the All-Ireland last year. Centre half back Joe Dillon. Now Joe trying to get it to his captain, but is cut off by the 16, Pádraig Carr, and then intercepted by Eugene Kieran for Cavan. Eugene getting it away. They're playing Donald Donoghue, but that was knocked away from him. Joyce McMullen here now. And still Joyce McMullen. He gets past Eugene Kieran. Inside the pass to Martin McHugh, but Joyce McMullen was fouled, and there's a player having his name taken. So Joyce McMullen is okay. John Goff having given the free. And Martin McHugh then. A little over 25 metres out at a left angle. Now Martin taking it very casually, and no wonder with accuracy like that. What a most accurate free taker he is. He's put them over now from both the right and the left. And Martin McHugh now having all three of those points that Donegal have scored. King, the number 8, breaks it down, but it's taken away from by Martin McHugh. To Joyce McMullen here, knocked away from by Tony Brady. Joyce has a chance to recover. He gets it back into his possession. Joyce McMullen now with the shot. He's got the point. King is on his own, unmarked then when he caught that kick out. Knocked away by Mickey Lafferty. This is the number 9, Anthony Malloy. Seamus Boner and Jim McEweeny here. Seamus Boner prevents it from going over the end line. That's inside, that's a nice point. The point here from Donald Reid. So now we're level for the second time in this game. 17 minutes into the first half. Martin McHugh quite anxious to take that free, but then they changed their minds. This is Mickey Lafferty. Seamus Boner knocking it down. Knocked away now from the Donegal left corner forward and cleared away by Eugene Kieran. This is Mickey Lafferty, the captain, having trouble getting possession, having trouble controlling it. Gets it away then to Joyce McMullen. The pass from Joyce McMullen, that's well stopped by Damien O'Reilly. And cleared away now quickly by Frankie Dolan, comes to Paul McGettigan. Swinging away over to the far side of the parallelogram. And got away then nicely by Eugene Kieran. Adge King here. This is Michael Faulkner. Michael Faulkner from about 43 metres out. He's got a good point. Michael Faulkner's point then was the first in 13 minutes for Cavan. Here come Donegal again. This is Donal Reid. The 16 is Pádraig Carr. Inside to Seamus Boner. Seamus Boner, oh, he's penalised for holding on too long. He looks at John Goff too, as much to say for what. Ray Cullivan here, number 12. The 9 is Danny Finnegan for Cavan. Ray Cullivan. That's the full-back, Martin Griffin. And the big full-back getting it away for Donegal. Now this is Donal Reid. It was knocked into his pat by Pádraig Carr. Pádraig Carr's inside, but it's gone too far. The full-back, Jim McAweeney, is there, and Jim gets it away. Danny Finnegan under it. Paul McGettigan too. Paul McGettigan for Donegal. Martin McHugh, that was too high altogether for the little centre half forward. Tony Brady to Ray Cullivan here. Inside Danny Finnegan. Adge King now. Cavan are playing with some confidence. Adge King now from about 43 metres out. Noel McCall, oh, he's in desperate trouble. This is Derek MacDonald. Oh, he put it wide, but he was being pushed, surely. Derek MacDonald here, he was being harassed all right, but what an awful mess Noel McCall, the goalkeeper, made of that. Derek MacDonald looked as if he had a gift chance. If Donegal can breathe a sigh of relief, but that full forward line is causing Donegal some trouble. Now, can they get through themselves? Martin McHugh here. Great determination with the 13. Martin from about just inside 45 metres. The equaliser from the centre half forward then. Martin McHugh. He played with some persistence then, despite the harassment from the Cavan defence. Joyce McMullen. That was beautiful fielding by the left half forward. And Joyce McMullen loses it. This is Jim Riley, Cavan's captain. That was a bit of misfortune for Donegal, but good fortune for the number 7 here. That's Ray Cullivan. That's inside to Jim Riley, the left half back overlapping now. Jim Riley with the shot and the point. That all started when the ball broke away from Joyce McMullen. It was misfortune for Joyce, but it came into the path of the left half back and he overlapped. A little bit of passing with Ray Cullivan. Jim Riley got it back and he gets the point. Ray Cullivan, number 12, the ball gone over the line. The line ball to Cavan. Tony Brady takes it short into Joe Dillon. Martin McHugh alongside Dillon. The centre half back gets it away. This is Des Newton, former under-21 All-Ireland medalist with Roscommon as Des, now living and playing in Donegal. That's Joe Dillon. Des Newton again. This is into the hands of Seamus Boner. That's Pádraig Carr. Inside him is Kieran Keaney. This is Kieran Keaney. That must be a penalty. That must be a penalty. It was a beautiful movement. It was Des Newton and it came to the full forward. Seamus Boner, then Pádraig Carr and Kieran Keaney. And Kieran Keaney, the number 15, gets the penalty, and he was the man who scored the winning goal in the 74 replay when Donegal beat down 3 minutes before the end of that final. And who's to take it? Seamus Boner it is, yes! Seamus Boner, the full forward. The man who has 2 Ulster Championship medals, the only member of the 30 players here with 2 Ulster Championship medals, gets the goal for Donegal and puts them ahead. But it was a beautiful movement indeed. This is Danny Finnegan for Cavan. Martin Lynch now the number 13. Des Newton alongside him the number 2. The number 2. Noel McCall has that safely to Brendan Dunleavy here. This is Ray Cullivan. He was left unmarked. Paddy McNamee now. Back into Ray Cullivan. Ray with the shot and the equaliser. They're level again. Ray Cullivan was left unmarked then when that ball was being got out of the Donegal defence, and a nice piece of interpassing gets it to Ray Cullivan and he levels them again. Danny Finnegan knocking that down. Comes to Michael Carr for Donegal. The 8 Paul McGettigan, 12 Ray Cullivan, the man who equalised. But it was slackness in the Donegal defence that led to that Ray Cullivan point. Cavan people, of course, won't complain about it. Seamus Bowen, Adge King back helping his defence, and Cavan get the free out. Michael Carr here. Corey Carr then, nice piece of foot passing. Joyce McMullen. Joyce McMullen still in possession. Joyce McMullen with the point. And that was all of 42 or 3 metres out. Joyce McMullen with a beautiful point. John Goff, the referee, asked Jim McWeeny to kick the ball to him. And they go into their dressing rooms just seconds after Donegal had taken the lead by 1 point in what's been an exciting first half here in St. Tiernock's Park in Clonus. We'll be back for that second half after a commercial break.
Smile for you and me, colorful and bright to see your Fuji color. Whoa, 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 Fuji color. Vivid, clear and bright. Make your every picture right.
Join the new era in color photography with Fuji Color HR from Fuji, the official film of the Los Angeles 1984 Olympics. Make the moment last with Fry's chocolate cream.
Michael is trying new Colgate Blue Minty Gel.
Looks great. Let me try. Tastes cool. Let me try. Mom!
New Colgate Blue Minty Gel. A creamy blue gel packed with Colgate's advanced fluoride protection, proven in clinical tests, working towards the day when Colgate hope there'll be 0 fillings.
Michael, it's good for both of you.
Want some?
Now, 2 Colgates, regular and new Blue Minty Gel. Nobody's working harder than Colgate for 0 fillings.
New Bold 3, an entirely new concept in automatic powders. We've taken a fabric conditioner for softness and fragrant freshness, plus Bold Automatic for its superb biological cleaning, and combined them in one revolutionary automatic powder. Bold 3 Automatic cleans, softens and freshens all in one.
It's true. My whole wash is really clean. My towels are soft and fluffy and so fresh. Bold 3 Automatic does do it all. Cleans, softens and freshens all in one.
From ICI, Nilvarm Plus. No other wormer is faster and more effective for the treatment of whoos and roundworms in cattle and sheep. And Nilvarm Plus contains cobalt, so essential for condition and weight gain, as cobalt deficiency is a problem in many areas, especially after liming and gland improvement. ICI has the solution. Nilvarm Plus. Worm Drench with Cobalt at no extra cost.
Entry forms are now available for this year's Radio 2 Dublin City Marathon. Numbers this year are limited, so please apply as soon as possible. The forms may be obtained by sending a stamped, addressed envelope, at least 9 inches by 6 inches, along with a postal order or cheque for £1, made payable to Radio 2 Dublin City Marathon at P.O. Box 1287, Dublin 2.
"35 minutes away from the destination of the Ulster title for 1983. Barring a draw, that is. This is Paddy McNamee. Number 11, Tommy McDermott. Derek MacDonald, the goal scorer in the first few minutes. Noel McCall gets a fist to that. It's gone over. Derek MacDonald, nephew of a former Meath player, Matty MacDonald, one of Meath's greats. Joyce McMullen nicely fingering it to Martin McHugh. That's Michael Carr overlapping from right half back. Michael Carr now from the 20-metre line. He had a chance there of putting them ahead. Frankie Dolan here. It's Pori Carr, the 16, with them. He was brought in just before the game in the rearrangements in the attack. Paul McGettigan there. He's been robbed now by Michael Faulkner. And Donald Donoghue here from outside the 45-metre line. That was beautifully taken by Des Newton. He's played so well at left corner back. He switched over there after a few minutes. Des, of course, winner of an under-21 medal with Roscommon in 78 when they beat Kerry. And from his clearance, Donegal come away. But it comes into the hands of Jim McEweeny. Michael Faulkner bouncing off his knees. Comes to Danny Finnegan here. The number 9, Paul McGettigan along with them. Bit of stalemate now. The tempo of the game has dropped quite a bit in these early minutes of the second half. Not surprisingly, though, because it's a very humid, warm day. Martin Griffin. That bounced well for him. He got the clearance away. Comes to Michael Faulkner from inside 45 metres. Noel McCall has it safely covered. And away then to Brendan Dunleavy. He has trouble controlling it. Now he's lost it. Donald Donoghue inside to Paddy McNamee. Paddy McNamee and the number 11, Tommy McDermott, and Paddy McNamee has turned once too often. That means he turned twice, so it's a free out. The tempo has dropped just a little now in the second half. That was a very bad free. It comes to Derek MacDonald. The free was taken by Martin Griffin. Derek MacDonald now, he's got his second point of the game. So a goal and 2 points now from the centre half forward here. And Derek, the scorer of the 2 points in the second half. This is Paul McGettigan. Seamus Bonner. Eugene Kiernan and Jim McEweeny, centre of your picture there now. So the 14 has been fouled and the free in. A chance for Donegal to equalise yet again from the free or the foul on that full forward. That's the position. 20-metre line. Joyce McMullen to take it this time. It's at a difficult angle. Now can he equalise again? Oh, that comes back off the upright, off the post into the hands of Frankie Dolan. Frankie doesn't get it away too far. Donald Reid there and Tony Brady. Paul McGettigan here now. Paul McGettigan inside. And Paul off the post again. 14. Seamus Bonner across the face of the post into the hands of Frankie Dolan. Out to Joe Dillon, the centre half back. This is Michael Carr, and Michael gets it from there. That was 3 lucky escapes, if you like, for the Cavan defence. Twice it came off the woodwork, and then it comes out about 40 metres to Michael Carr, and Michael drifting down from the half-back line takes the point. And would you believe they're level for the 6th time in this Ulster final. Now Donegal coming through again. Martin McHugh to Joyce McMullen. Joyce McMullen and the point. Joyce McMullen here, the left half forward, in the same position that he held on the under-21 team. Got that pass from one of last year's under-21 teammates, Martin McHugh. And Martin is in some trouble now with an injury out in the middle of the field. He placed Joyce McMullen for that last point. He had been limping for a few moments beforehand. This would be misfortune because he has been in such splendid form, a most accurate forward. PJ McGowan on the left. He was a sub in the 74 final. He's Donegal's trainer now. Brian McAniff, the captain. Those pictures we've just seen of Martin McHugh, I don't think the centre half forward is 100% in the second half. He has had serious injuries earlier this year. In fact, missed the game against Monaghan. This is Adge King coming away. He hasn't got a right boot. He's lost his right boot. This is Des Newton. He has played superbly at left cornerback. Paul McGettigan here for Donegal. Still Paul McGettigan. Is he taking too much out of it? The long cross then to Pádraig Carr. Pádraig Carr gets round Frankie Dolan. Now is this dangerous for Cavan? Pádraig Carr, look how quickly he goes. Gets round Tony Brady, and then it's a free out. John Goff penalising Pádraig for going too far. Foul. Michael Carr, the one with the ball, the one who was fouled, Eugene KIERAN. He started off so well at right corner back, but he's been taken all over the place now. He's now playing out on the left wing. Joyce McMullen knocking that down to Anthony Malloy. Tony Brady here, Donald Reid got a hand to it, and into the path of Kieran Keaney. Kieran Keaney inside. Martin McHugh. Martin McHugh turned around. This is Paul McGettigan, shot blocked. The block was by Tony Brady, but it comes to Pádraig Carr. Paul McGettigan, Martin McHugh. Are they overdoing it now? Martin McHugh with the shot, and Martin has got the point. And I think Martin McHugh is injured now this time. Yes, the picture's telling their tale then. Martin McHugh, he is in some distress. Frank Rush replacing Martin McHugh. Martin McHugh played such a splendid game, contributing 7 important points, and he played so well at centre half forward, being assisted off now by assistant trainer KIERAN McCready. This is Danny Finnegan. Jim Riley, now the Cavan captain, trying to save this Ulster final with the run from the right. It's got away by Tommy McDermott, and Tommy McDermott intercepts again. Paddy McNamee here. Back to Donald Donoghue. The 17 is Stephen King, and it's in. Stephen King, the sub of just a couple of seconds. Stephen King it was. Brian McAniff, you can just see him with the Donegal tie then. Quite agitated he is. The Donegal manager, he was manager when they won in 72 and 74. He was player manager then. Is he worried now about the influence Stephen King might have on midfield? But Paul McGettigan get it away for Donegal. Frankie Dolan, this is Frank Rush. What a big man he is. Back out to Paul McGettigan. Kieran Keeney into the hands of Joe Dillon. Donald Donoghue here. Joyce McMullen, the 12. Still Donald Donoghue. Inside, the full-back, look where he's out. Martin Griffin had it well covered, and a long clearance. This is Joe Dillon. And now Michael Carr, and he has had a super game in this Ulster final. A big influence on the half-back line. This is Donald Reid. That's a good point. Donald Reid, the scorer. Cavan need a goal now to equalise. Derek MacDonald. This is Michael Faulkner. That's a foul on Michael. Paul McGettigan here was just about to run on it. Martin Lynch is so anxious to take it. The number 11 then ran out of picture. He was the one that was fouled. Martin Lynch now about 40 metres out, dead straight in front of the post. And as they say in Clonus, he's kicking up that hill. Martin Lynch swinging over. 2 points now separating them. The corner forward. Just 4 minutes left. Well caught by Danny Finnegan. Danny fouled by Joyce McMullen. The free left to Joe Dillon. Joe from beyond the middle of the field. Paul McGettigan for Donegal. Seamus Boner roaming way out beyond midfield. Seamus Boner now getting it inside to Frank Rush. Eugene Kiernan, Frank Rush, the 25. Frankie Dolan is there. Oh, they're making a terrible mess of it. Surely that's in. That's a free. Penalised for picking it up. A penalty. You can see John Goff indicating quite clearly that it was Jim McAweeney had picked it up, and that is tragedy surely for Cavan. As the ball came across, one dropped it, and then the fullback Jim McAweeney picked it up. Seamus Boner again. He's got 2 minutes left, and could this wrap it up? And he decides to take his point. Seamus, the full forward. He's not unhappy with the point. A deliberate decision, obviously, just in case Damien O'Reilly saved his attempted goal. But Donegal, who have been the sharper in this second half. 18 is Brian O'Grady, a sub just in for Cavan. Paddy McNamee here now. Ray Collivan. Could they just pull this game out of the fire now in the last moments? Brian O'Grady is cut off by Mickey Laverty. And Mickey gets it out to Anthony Malloy, who's playing so steadily in defence for the last 5 or 10 minutes. Frankie Dolan now for Cavan. Paddy McNamee foraging out from the left corner now. This is Jim Riley. Now Jim Riley, the half-back, he's lost possession and is taken away from by Donald Reid. He's picked ours. Joyce McMullen has picked it up, the number 12. He had picked it off the ground. And Donald Donoghue is so anxious to get on with it. Jim Riley. And taken away by Tommy McDermott into the hands of Joe Dillon. Joe Dillon from 45 metres, that's a blast wide, it's gone wide. The centre half-back coming through, but kicking it wide, and could that wide be the last chance for Donegal, or for Cavan? The referee says it's all over, and Donegal are the Ulster champions for the third time, having won the title previously. in 1972 and 74, and now with those 3 points of a victory margin, they're champions again for the third time, and so they go into the All-Ireland semi-final on August the 14th, and there they play Galway. That's in 3 weeks' time in Croke Park.
And so a great win then for Donegal, and we all look forward indeed to that semi-final, and Offaly or Dublin will then go on to meet Cork in the other semi-final. So some great matches still in prospect for the rest of the year. Well, the one thing about that Ulster final yesterday was that it was played in a marvellous spirit, and lovely indeed to reflect on the fact that players from both teams trained together here in Dublin. But, well, we all know that well by now, but what I didn't know until a short time ago was that two of the players who actually marked each other yesterday, Brendan Dunleavy of Donegal and Donald Donoghue of Cavan, are actually flatmates. So I think they'll have a lot to talk about when they get back together again this week. Well, a little later on in this programme, we'll be joined again by KIERAN McCready, an old friend of this programme, who has come back from Donegal especially to join us this evening. We'll talk to him a little later on. But before that, something a little different, because from time to time on this programme, as you know, we have focused attention on the performances of referees in both hurling and football. And certainly yesterday's official, John Goff of Antrim, was, in our opinion, one of the most impressive that we've seen out for quite some time. He was always up with the play, he was in control, he was immaculately well togged out, really looked the part, and he was clear and decisive in all his actions and in his decisions. He really was in charge, and that, of course, is the point of the whole exercise. So we take a chance now to assess the performance of John Goff, the referee. And here, as you see him, is the whistle around his neck there, where he had good command of it all the way through. But our first example concerns this punch by Michael Faulkner, the Cavan centre-half forward, on Joyce McMullen. Now, young Joyce McMullen continues his solo run, and watch the Cavan man again. Michael Faulkner comes in there, and that particularly nasty type of foul that you don't like to see. Well, John Goff was right up with the play there, and he spoke to Michael Faulkner, and Michael Faulkner, a lad who didn't foul for the rest of the match, and no wonder, because he'd been booked. That was one example of John Goff being in charge. And here's another, because he clamped down heavily yesterday on overcarrying, and we do know that the GAA are concerned about referees letting overcarrying go. But here's Seamus Boner of Donegal, and as you can see, he took something like 7 steps there, including the turn, before he played that ball. And John Goff, and this is important, he's right up with the play. Too often we see referees having to run up, and now, look at this. John Goff giving the signal. We've deliberately slowed it down to show you what he's doing, that hand signal to denote overcarrying. Here an example concerning the Cavan man, Donald Donoghue. Well, I've seen this already today, and I know that he took 8 steps with the ball before he finally hopped it. And Donald Donoghue, watch closely here, was very annoyed with himself, but when he saw the referee signalling, well, he didn't mind, he put the ball down. Here we have Pádraig Carr of Donegal. Possibly inexperience here might have cost them a score, because I know that Seamus Boner was looking up away out of the picture there and calling for a pass. But Pádraig Carr persisted. He took 9 steps, I think it was, when we counted earlier on today, 9 steps before he played that ball. And as you can see, he also changed it from hand to hand without playing it, and the referee, John Goff, had no hesitation in penalising him. An example here, Martin Griffin, the man in possession, the Donegal fullback. Well, we just wondered if this one might have been a little bit harsh. Martin Griffin didn't play the ball, but as you can see, he knocked down his man who was attempting to challenge there, but the Cavan man did run, well, full thwack into him, and while Martin Griffin was penalised there, well, that's one perhaps that might have been a little borderline. Martin Griffin certainly was disappointed. But we do know that the GAA are concerned not just about overcarrying, but also about barging. A lot of players, just when they get the ball, they just come straight through. You saw again the clear signal. And here's an example of Martin Griffin again, coming through. Now, he had chance, I thought, to play the ball there, but instead he barged his way through. He crashed straight into a Cavan man there. That's the sort of an old-fashioned full-back play, where the full-back comes straight out and must knock down the man before he gets in his clearance. But watch Martin Lynch here, the Cavan number 13. You'll see him there just inside the large parallelogram. He gets the ball into his hand. Now, Martin Lynch, I'm sure, had a penalty on his mind here. But John Goff, the referee, watched the positioning just in front of the Donegal number 6, Mick Lafferty, and he knows, he can see clearly that Martin Lynch is barging and pushing his way through, clearly looking for a penalty. And then clear, and with great authority, John Goff signals, and that's that. And certainly you can't dispute when a referee is in authority. Here we have a clash between Martin Griffin, the Donegal full-back, and Declan MacDonald. And what's this punch coming in from Martin Griffin? Well, he really should have known better. Well, that a very lucky escape, I thought, there for Martin Griffin, the Donegal full-back. But looking through all that, of course, you must take frustration and tension in the game into account in that. But looking back through all that, I think you'll agree with us that John Goff, the Antrim official yesterday, really was in charge of that game all the way through. And as I said earlier on, he really looked the part. And looking through the Ulster final programme, incidentally a lovely publication, and I read that John Goff is equally interested in hurling, that he does a lot of hurling refereeing. And how nice it would be to see an All-Ireland hurling final, perhaps, or a big game between the big powers further south being refereed by somebody from Antrim. And that's something we'd all welcome very, very much indeed. But one of the happiest men at Clonus yesterday was surely Brian McAniff, the former outstanding Donegal defender who's now the team manager. Mick Dunn spoke to him afterwards, and he first asked him about that midweek loss of Matt Gallagher, who had to be rushed to hospital for an appendix operation. And this is how Brian replied.
Yes, Mick, we were very concerned because Matt's one of the characters of the squad, and for being a good player, he also has a great voice. In fact, we refer to him as E.T., which is electric tongue, actually, not E.T. as in the film.
But that sort of thing must throw a team manager's plans completely out, and then you have to start rethinking again, just a few days before a big game.
It was a very big upset, Mick. In fact, we had picked the side on Tuesday night, and I think the first thing on Wednesday morning. In fact, when I heard it, I thought it was a car accident, but luckily it was just appendicitis. I was fit to get Matt out of the hospital this morning and bring him to the game as well, which was an extra plus for himself.
So he was able to be here, yes?
He was there on the sideline, squealing as usual, but in the best of voice.
It's amazing the number of top-class hurlers and footballers who get emergency appendicitis in the days before a big game. You know, we've had recent examples of it. Owen Liston being the biggest example in '79, I think.
Well, the strange thing about Matt's was last November we were going to Laois and he had a rumbling appendicitis on the Tuesday. And thankfully he got out for that National League game. But I said on Wednesday morning, it's a pity I didn't have the little blighter operated last November on.
So at what stage in the final did you realise that you had it won? I saw you up on the sideline one time. You looked very agitated.
I think when Seamus Boner took the point from the penalty kick, to be very fair, I felt we had it. I wasn't too sure how much time was left, but I was overestimating, and I reckoned it was 2 minutes. But with Cavan, you never know because they're great fighters.
Michael Carr was saying to me earlier that he felt you didn't play as well as you did in earlier rounds. Would you agree with that?
Possibly so, but then Cavan were a side to be reckoned with, you know, and they came through 3 very tough championship matches. And as I told the lads going out, they were going to get a very tough game. Fair play to Cavan to give us a good battle for every inch of the way.
And it was very exciting the way each of you came back at each other. I mean, there was never much of a gap until those last few minutes.
Well, you wouldn't expect any different from Cavan, and this is the new Donegal side, and this is what we're hoping to build on for the future, Mick.
What about Galway now? You do have 2 ex-Galway players in your panel, Frank Rush and Paul McGettigan, so you're not complete strangers.
No, that's quite true, Mick. In fact, I was at the Connacht final last Sunday in anticipation or hopeful of a victory today, and we had a good look at Galway, and I gathered the Galway people were here today. But we'll talk about that on Tuesday night. We'll celebrate tonight, Mick. We won't talk any further about Galway.
OK, Brian, away to those celebrations now. Thanks very much, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Mick.
Brian McAniff there. Well, centre-half-back Mick Lafferty, who captained Donegal yesterday, also came up to talk to Mick Dunn. And looking ahead to August the 14th, Mick asked him about the challenge that they'd face from Galway.
We have seen Galway playing. I watched the Connacht final myself on television last Sunday. Galway were very impressive. Their forwards were fast and quick to the ball. Their backs are very, very tight, particularly the half-back line. They're experienced players. Brian has seen the game as well, so in the next 3 weeks or so, Brian possibly will have something to say to us about that.
OK, Mickey, congratulations again, and away with you with the Anglo-Celt Cup.
Thanks very much, Mick.
Lots of happy Donegal supporters there. Well, last night it must have been a great scene up in Donegal town. We'll hear about that in a moment, but amidst all the celebrations up there, we were still able to get a message to Donegal's assistant, KIERAN McCready, that we'd like him to come back home to Dublin and to come in this evening and talk to us. Well, KIERAN, you've had a hard and a long drive down this afternoon, but you've made it, and thank you very much for taking all the trouble to come in and talk to us. Many congratulations. What was it like in Donegal town last
night? Tremendous scene. Thousands of people there, and perhaps a forerunners to things to come, hopefully.
So you're not just content to win the Ulster Cup?
No, we're not, in fact. And at this point in time, Jim, may I pay a tribute to our supporters who turned up in their tens of thousands yesterday. They were absolutely great. And their contribution was quite invaluable, because at times when we were flagging during the game, they stood behind us, and nothing negative coming in from them,
and they came out
really
again
appreciate what they did for us.
And they came out again last night. Were there bonfires ablaze?
Bonfires, Ballyshannon, Bundorn, and I'm sure further on down the county I could see the hills lit up.
And McLafferty brought home the cup.
And McLafferty brought home the cup.
Yeah, it must have been a marvellous feeling to win back the Ulster title after all the effort that went into it.
Yes, and full credit to Brian McAniff. You know, Brian set his plans way back last October, and he introduced some new players. Others had experience from the under-21 panel. We had some of the more mature players. Seamus Bonner, Lafferty himself, Brendan Dunleavy, Martin Griffin. And they merged nicely, blended beautifully, and we have a nice balance of youth and experience now. That will stand us in good stead, I'm quite sure.
Indeed, but you still yesterday, Kieran, had a trying time on the line at times. You had to make switches as early as the 5th minute, but at least they worked for you.
Oh, they did, in fact, yes. Well, Brian is very decisive like that. He saw what required to be done, and he did it immediately. The switch of the two wing backs was a very decisive factor.
And all the hard training surely was worth it, because you needed fitness and stamina in that last 10 minutes.
It was a very trying day on any footballer yesterday, you know, that playing in that humid atmosphere.
How did the players feel about that?
In playing in those conditions? Well, I'd be inclined to go along with what Mick Lafferty said yesterday when he was being interviewed by McDunn. He said that you don't really think about it at the time, and if a fella is motivated highly enough, he doesn't really feel it until it's all over.
Well, for all the ability shown by the young players last night, it was still one of the old hands, Seamus Bonner, who right through the game seemed to be providing the inspiration. He must really have been a great influence on those younger players.
Yes, Bonner and Michael Carr, and they worked so well together, you know, that it was an invaluable contribution to the eventual outcome. But Bonner himself, his tactical thinking, you know, was something else.
Did you feel, as Brian McAniff felt, that the penalty was crucial? The goal just coming as it did?
At that particular juncture? Oh, absolutely, because you, as you well know, and I'm sure Jack Mahon will agree with me in this, that to hit a team with a goal like that just before half-time has a tremendous psychological effect. And the other team think about it for a long time. And it's a big boost to whichever team gets the goal.
Indeed. Jack Mahon, do you feel, even as a Galway-man, that Donegal have learned enough now to go on to win in All-Ireland?
Jim, you hopped that one to me now. Do you know that a Galway-man couldn't expect Donegal to beat Galway in the championship? But I'm looking forward to a great tilt with Donegal, and as I said earlier, this is the best Donegal team I've seen. I'd like to congratulate KIERAN on the win, and having a Donegal wife, it gives me an added interest in the game, but I'd still be hoping
you on your good taste.
I'd still be hoping for a victory for the maroon and white.
Yes. Kieran, looking ahead to that match briefly now, lots of hard work involved, I'm sure, for Donegal.
Yes, and lots of planning. Some little kinks that require to be ironed out, that were obvious enough from yesterday's game. Nothing that's insuperable. And I know Brian has a plan in mind for all of this. Brian, there's another feature of Brian's management. He's a great man to seek advice. And he will go around to those people with whom he has played previously, other players, and he'll ask their advice, and he'll act upon it.
Well, Kieran, I won't ask you what the plans are for the next day, because I'm sure you wouldn't tell us anyway. But good luck to you in the semi-final, and congratulations again to
Thank you very much, Jim.
Well, we've invited Jack Mahon into the studio today to talk not just about the Ulster final, but also about his new book. It's called Action Replay, and Jack has brought out this book to celebrate the GAA centenary year. Jack Mahon, what was in your mind when you brought it out? You've written before about your own football career in Galway football teams, but the GAA centenary, I think, was
it's the big occasion, so it is, and it's my contribution, as I said. There are 5 chapters in the book. One is about the club, Dunmore McCain's, which is as close to my heart as Milltown is to yours. And then the second one is really the history of St. Charles College Tuam. St. Charles College Tuam, come on you boys in blue, I think I call it. And they're the kingpins, they're the Kerry of colleges football. The third one is I suppose I could be accused of showing my colours, but my favourite colours are maroon and white. I'm sure Kieran McCready would have a different title for a chapter in his book, wouldn't he? It depends. The history of the Connacht final is the 4th chapter, and there's 105 pages on that. And the last chapter is my own favourite. This is the GAA. It's a series of anecdotes about what reflects the GAA to me.
No doubt you picked up a few more yesterday in Clonus. Well, it does occur to me that coming up to GAA centenary year, that many clubs and many individuals will be hoping to bring out publications to mark the centenary. But Jack Mahon, how difficult a job is it, and more importantly, I suppose, how expensive a job is it?
Well, it's very expensive. Printing is very expensive, and I was lucky to get to have a few friends who helped me in the sponsorship, and I'd like to thank them now. But there's another one coming out at the end of the week from my own club, The History of the Dunmore McHales, and it's been written by Michael Leyden, brother of Seamus, and he has produced a great job. It is difficult, and I'm looking forward to many good publications.
I mean, were there people who said to you that you must be mad in the middle of a recession to attempt something like
it wasn't the best time to bring it out, but sales are good, thanks be to God, and I hope they continue to be so.
The GAA itself, of course, are hopeful that many people will follow your example, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of talk about other people bringing out books to mark centenary. Is it that it's too far away?
Well, it's not that far away, but I say that there are many clubs really active at the moment. I met somebody in Clonus yesterday, Con Short. He's producing the history of the Ulster Council, and he's busy, and he's going to have his ready too.
So there's a lot of work involved, obviously, in that. How do you find that the normal GAA fan reacts to books? I mean, are they good sports people to buy books?
Well, they are and they aren't, but the remarks, and I have got great encouragement from some people who, for instance, after the Connacht final, I was out from the pitch with Michael Webb, the Mayo goalkeeper, and he told me, he says, I got your book yesterday, I read it, it's lovely.
Well, a word of encouragement. Well, thanks very much indeed to Jack Mahon for coming to the studio to join us today, and Kieran McCready for taking so much trouble to come down from Donegal. But we move on now to the Ulster Minor final, because yesterday's Ulster final, I'm afraid, proved a very disappointing curtain raiser for the big crowd at Clonus, with Derry landing their 6th title by beating Monaghan 3-9 to 4 points. However, there were some good scores, and the Derry forwards in particular were very impressive, as we can see now as we sample some of the skills of these brilliant young Derrymen. Well, first of all, we'll see a nice point here from Monaghan. From their right full forward, he's Frankie McCormack, getting into position nicely and just about making it over the bar there, despite a very good effort by Don Kelly from Ballinascreen, the Derry goalkeeper. Well, here we have a Monaghan player clapping before a Derry free. That's something I don't like to see in football fields, but it's one of those habits that creep in. But nicely landed over there by Tony McKiernan from the Balahi club in Derry, and certainly he took his frees well. We'll see a very nice point coming up here from one of Derry's better players. He's Damien Cassidy, also from the Balahi club, the full forward. He had a very good game. He was a major influence in a lot of scores, and here from a very tricky angle, you'll see that wasn't easy, but he did have a look at the post. He had a fair idea of where he was putting it, and he got the point. Here an unfortunate incident for Monaghan, because Val Ford, their centre half forward, whom I understand had been warned before, being awkward there, throwing a bit of a punch, and he'd been warned before that, and tough luck really on Val Ford being sent off in an Ulster Minor final, but I gather he'd been warned before that. I'm sure there was nothing intentional or anything as he went up for that ball, but nowadays, once you're warned, you have to get the line. So a big blow to Monaghan as their centre half forward went off. But they did have an escape here, because here's Eddie McElhinney coming in for Derry. You'd have thought that he'd put that one in the net, but he sent it wide. That really was a bad miss by Eddie McElhinney. But here a great catch and a great run by Damien Cassidy for Derry, and this is a very good full forward. Uses his height very well. He's very, very accurate too, and he runs well, and he'll pose a few problems for fullbacks before the year is out, no doubt. Damien Cassidy getting that one. Then the ball being lobbed in there by Dermot McNichol, the Derry captain. It's deflected in by Damien Cassidy, and it was his height really that caused the problem there. As that ball came in from Dermot McNichol, Damien Cassidy getting the score. And the referee going in just to consult with the umpire, and the score is allowed. He was lurking there just on the edge of the small square, and put it up, says the referee. Here another point for Monaghan, the number 9 who missed it the first time. Well, the chance falls to him again, Seamus McElroy, and he gets the point. And finally, a Derry goal. The scorer, as you'll see, is Eamon Lynch from the Banagher Club. He also had a very good game. The left half-back, Niall Mullen, coming through. A good delivery by Niall Mullen. It was deflected down to Eamon Lynch. And Eamon Lynch making full use of the chance and getting the goal. Taking that score very, very smartly indeed, Eamon Lynch. The Derry Miners then, living up to their rating as a very good minor side. Galway, of course, are already through. We saw Meath on television earlier on the year. I was very, very impressed by them. But overall, I feel the standard in minor football and hurling this year has just been a little bit disappointing, but hopefully we'll see good action in the minor grades before the year is out. Well, now a brief word on some of the programmes this week on RTE 1 and 2. We'll have further coverage, of course, of Galway races on Channel 1 tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. The Galway races. Then on Thursday we begin our coverage of the European Show Jumping Championships from Hickstead, and they'll continue through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Well, on Saturday night on RTE1 we'll have one of the highlights of the sporting calendar in this country. Live coverage of the final of the Carroll's Irish Greyhound Derby from Shelburne Park. And there's another great clash in prospect next Sunday when Dublin take on the Leinster and All-Ireland champions Offaly in the Leinster football final. And with Kerry gone out of the race now, well, the talk has begun to swing round again to the possibility of Dublin putting a stop to Offaly's gallop in Leinster at least. It's 4 years now since they last beat them in a Leinster final, and just as now, last-minute goals were then the order of the day. A very good evening to you.
They just want 1 point to make it a draw, or 2 to win it. And if it's a draw, remember, they'll replay next Sunday here in Croke Park, along with the Galway Cork All-Ireland hurling semi-final. Brian Mullins gets the free, and then he's not pleased with it. That was dissent. Mullins on the ground. But quickly back up again. So the referee throwing it up, penalising the Dublin man for the dissent, and as Mullins gets it again, Jim Ronan to Bernard Brogan. Anton O'Toole is unmarked on the right. This is Anton O'Toole. Into Brian Mullins. Bernard Brogan the goal. What an amazing finish to this final. A hill gone wild, but the call has gone on the board. Meters. The equaliser from the centre half forward, then Martin McHugh. Tony Brady here, Donal Reid got a hand to it, and into the path of Kieran Keaney. Kieran Keaney inside. Martin McHugh turned around. This is Paul McGettigan, shot blocked. The block was by Tony Brady, but it comes to Pádraig Carr. Paul McGettigan, Martin McHugh. Are they overdoing it now? Martin McHugh with the shot, and Martin has got the point. And I think Martin McHugh is injured now this time. Yes, the picture's telling their tale then.
Martin McHugh then hopefully will be recovered fully from that injury he got in Clonus. But Galway, of course, are the more experienced side. Johnny Hughes, the long-serving defender, is one of the 2 Galway men who played in the 74 semi-final. Tom Naughton's the other one, and he's back tomorrow after injury for the first full championship game this summer. Peter Lees recovered from injury that kept him out of the defence last year, and his namesake Richie Lees moved to midfield, and most of these Galway men having tasted the semi-final fare only last summer. Well, Galway haven't been very impressive so far this year, but they are a mature side, and they did prove solid champions when they played in one of the best Connacht finals that we've had in recent years.
Galway parading with historic rivals Mayo before their second consecutive final, and here in Castlebar, the champions couldn't have expected as easy a win as they'd had in Tuam last year.
A packed house here in McHale Park. TJ Kilgallen taking that one down. It runs loose to Pat O'Neill for Galway, bustling his way through, finding the loose man, finding Val Daly, crossing the 45-metre line. The early shot from Val Daly goes over the bar. The equaliser by Val Daly. TJ Kilgallen up towards Jimmy Lyons. That's cut away smartly by Stephen Keneally. The Galway fullback up towards Brian O'Donnell. He's got it. This is Brian O'Donnell, a chance of the equaliser, and he puts it over the bar. Brian O'Donnell feeds it back to Brian Talty. Up towards Gay McManus it goes, fisted on forward. Michael Cavan gets back there. Stephen Joyce is in with a chance of a goal! A Galway goal, but what a mistake that time. Richie Bell, rather. Brian Talty. It comes down to Willie Joe Padden, and a chance of a point for Mayo, and that's another one from Willie Joe Padden. So 10 minutes to go to half-time as Richie Lee is robbed by Richie Bell, breaks it loose as far as TJ Kilgallen. Up into the corner. Pat Dixon for Mayo to Willie Joe Padden, rounding Brian Talty. A chance of a score, a good shoulder from Seamus McHugh. Jimmy Lyons and Willie Joe Padden. Who set it up initially, thumped it up in the air, ran in after it and fisted it past Paul Coyne. Pat O'Neill. The support comes from Johnny Hughes. And not a good tackle. The referee allows the advantage to Johnny Hughes. Gay McManus, Val Daly as Galway move into top gear. The shot from Daly. It skims off the crossbar but goes over the bar. A point by Val Daly puts Galway back in front. Willie Joe Padden breaks it down, but it comes to Val Daly for Galway as he's trying to break loose. The referee allows him the advantage. Here's Barry Brennan. Checks, then into the corner towards Stephen Joyce. Here's Joyce going by Henry Cavan, leaving it instead for Pat Keneally. The shot from Keneally looks good, and Galway go back in front, thanks to Pat Keneally, who came on there as a sub at the start of the second half. Brian Talty grabs that one down, goes by Martin Connolly. Up to Gay McManus. Anthony Egan is there, and McManus has got inside the full-back. Thundering towards goal, a chance of a score here, surely for Gay McManus. The point. Extending Galway's lead to 110 to 1-8 for Mayo. Pat Keneally tearing away through the centre. Spraying it out to Stephen Joyce. Good pass and a good shot, and Stephen Joyce extends Galway's lead. 112 to 19 they lead. Stephen Joyce to Brian O'Donnell, going by the entire Mayo defence, then holding possession. Gay McManus gets what could be the insurance score. It's 113 to 110.
So Galway through to the All-Ireland Series again and hoping to get to the final after 9 years. It was a much stiffer test this time and against Mayo, and after that Castlebar win, these were some of the views expressed.